Good morning. It's Monday, start of another week, start of some more self-isolation and social distancing. Two phrases that I'm sure you'll never ever want to hear again or use again once all this is over. But here we are, starting another week. And this is also the fourth week, starting our fourth week of doing devotions together. Hard to believe. The time has gone so fast. Anyway, our devotion this morning is "Be still and know that I am God." A verse that we've heard many, many times. We've heard many sermons on it. And it wasn't that long ago that Pastor Doug preached a message where he talked about getting away to desert places and just finding quiet and solitude. Something that we all need to practice, and I'm sure a lot of us still don't. Solitude is just, it's time with your Heavenly Father, free from all the distractions that bombard us every single day. We all have cell phones and computers and TVs and binge watching on Netflix, but it's time without any of those distractions. And even now, in the midst of this global pandemic, where a lot of us are forced to stay inside and away from our normal routines, I would venture to say that a lot of us still have not made it a regular practice of finding solitude and just spending quiet time with God. I want to read you a quote, and it says, "We live, in fact, in a world starved for solitude, silence, and private, and therefore starved for meditation and true friendship." That quote is from C.S. Lewis, who died in 1963. Back when a time where there was no such thing as cell phones, there was no such thing as personal computers that we saw in our homes. There were TVs, but not a whole lot to watch on TV. But C.S. Lewis still felt the need to point out that we lived in a world starved for solitude. And I think most of us habitually live starved for solitude. We never fully realize how great our need is just to spend alone time, quiet with God. So I encourage you to take some time, starting today, just to recognize your need for spending alone time with God, just getting some solitude. And you can know that you have a need for solitude for one reason. Jesus needed it. I mean, all over the New Testament, we see examples of Jesus going off on his own to pray. One example is found in Mark 1, verse 35, and it tells us that Jesus, rising very early in the morning, while it was still dark, departed and went out to a desolate place, and there he prayed. Jesus practiced perfect communion with his Father while he was here on this earth, and he still needed time alone. And Jesus loved people. I mean, Jesus went to parties. He loved spending time with people. Jesus was God and man at the same time, but he needed time alone with his Heavenly Father. And if he needed, I would venture to say every single one of us surely need it. So how can we practice solitude? First thing is we need to find a place where we're going to completely free from distractions, free from our cell phones, TV, computers, and mornings work best for most people, I would say. Getting up early in the morning and just before you even start your day, spending some quiet time, just sitting in God's presence. And I'm sure most of you do that, but if you don't, I encourage you to start it. I mean, find a place where you're not going to be interrupted. I mean, if you live with other people, it might mean getting up a little bit earlier. It might mean just going for a drive in your car and just sitting in God's quiet. It might mean just going into a different room and being alone. I mean, if you do live alone, I encourage you to take the same time or around the same time and the same place every day so you can create a habit. And the thing about habits is if you do the same thing over and over for 3 weeks, you have created a habit. So I encourage you to start if you don't already do it. And the thing about habits also is start out with smaller goals, like 10, 15 minutes if you don't already do it. Because when you set larger goals, like I'm going to spend a half hour to an hour just sitting in God's presence today, and you end up getting defeated because you find a hard job doing that in the beginning, then it's hard to create that habit. So In order to create a habit, start with small goals, be consistent, and do it every day. So if you don't already do it, I just encourage you to start a habit of just spending some quiet time with God, finding some solitude, and you don't have to always be talking. I mean, sitting quiet in God's presence sometimes means using no words at all. It means just enjoying His presence and allowing Him to speak to you. So if you don't already do it, I encourage you to start. We'll talk to you tomorrow.